Let's go ahead and get started with animation. So you'll notice that in the general inspector when I have nodes selected that the K and the C buttons are currently disabled. These respectively stand for keyframes and clips. In order to enable them, we'll need to go down to the project window and click the second button, which allows us to create reels. We have a few different default options here. Let's go ahead and click scroll. And let's double click that reel when it gets created and give it a name. So we'll just call this one scroll. Here you'll see the various different options when you have a reel selected that you can select. For now, let's just leave all these defaults, though later we'll go into detail on how you can use these different values to orchestrate complex cinematic experiences. For now that we have the reel created, we can click down here and select scroll. And when we come back up here, we'll see that all of the K and C buttons have been enabled. So let's just go ahead and click the K button to create a keyframe track. And you'll notice that the input boxes get highlighted here. That's to signify that these attributes are currently being highlighted, or animated rather. And let's just go ahead and place a keyframe here at its current position and then move the scrubber to say 1.7. And so this highlight means that whenever we manipulate those values, whether through moving things in the preview window or manipulating directly here in the inputs, that the system will create a new keyframe at that position. And so we'll see that the animation is currently happening there. And let's go ahead and save draft and take a look at what that looks like on the front end. And you'll see that we've done that. I'm currently scrolling on the trackpad and the animation is happening. So a couple of important conceptual things to mention are that I've been asked in the past, so how do you get more scroll when it comes to scroll cinema, or how does that work? And so you should think that this preview window is actually the stage, right? And all of the elements that exist, they all always exist. Right, but what we're doing with scroll cinema is we're actually moving things on and off the stage and creating the illusion of scrolling. So really, everything is just one big animation that we manipulate as we scroll. So that is one conceptual thing to keep in mind. Another is that these reels, you can think of them as these old style film cameras, right, that used to have a lot of different sequences or footage on them. And so that's the metaphor you can think of, and every reel has a sequence on it, and in the future we'll have support for more sequences and more workflows around that. But yeah, for now, every reel has one sequence, and when we select the sequences in the timeline, we are manipulating that's where the animations are contained, is on the sequence. And you can have more than one reel at once, right? So right now we have a scroll. We'll eventually be having time as well as manual reels that all work together to create the scrolly experience. So with that being said, let's go ahead and introduce some workflows that you can use in order to start creating your scrollies. So I'll go ahead and delete that track that we just created, and you'll notice that we use the timeline inspector over here to manipulate the values of the keyframes and clips and such, as well as delete tracks. And let's actually go ahead and place these three nodes into a group. So I'm going to select one and press the shift button and click on the last item in the list. That'll select all of the items in between. Let's click the group button and go ahead and create parent group. They'll automatically put all of the nodes beneath the group as all the nodes as children of the parent group. And let's go ahead and create a keyframe track for this position of the group node. And let's create a keyframe there at the 0, 0 position. And let's go to 1.7 and create another keyframe there. And just showing you another way that you can manipulate these values. Let's go in here and select this keyframe and see here that we have these different values that we can modify. So we're going to animate to the 1920 position. And there we have the beginnings of our illusion of scrolling through a web page or scrolling through a webcomic. So when you place keyframes and nodes, you'll see that we have this option of easing. So if you click this, you'll see that we have various different kinds of animation curves that you can use to add life or change the experience of your animations. So if we do ease in out quad, for example, it will slow the animation down as it goes in and as it goes out. So I'll leave you to play around with those and see the different kinds of effects that you can create. And another important thing to note is that when we create these scrolling experiences, I tend to recommend going about 1920 pixels or units for every 1.7 seconds. So this is slightly more advanced, but I'll go ahead and give an example of why. So I just added this thing called auto run. So within scrolling sequences, we can create moments, cinematic moments, in which the animation goes by itself, not requiring a scroll, right? This is to, yes, create cinematic experiences within what is a larger scroll experience, right? And so I'm doing this just to demonstrate that when this comes up, these buttons come up, which allow us to preview the auto run. And if we press the play button, we'll see that that is what that experience would look like if it were being played as a video, right? So that is where the 1.7 second recommendation comes from for going 1920 pixels. You'll see that if we animate it, that's not too slow, not too fast, right? So that's where that recommendation comes in. So if you'd ever like to get an idea of what the animation looks like or how it could feel, yeah, you can go ahead and add some auto run and show off, or rather test how it would look. We'll go into more detail on how to use auto run and use it to create dynamic experiences later. But yeah, just for now, just know that you can place an auto run start and an auto run pause wherever you'd like to test, and you can go ahead and delete those if you don't plan to use them anymore. And there we go. Yeah, that was just to give the reasoning behind the 1920 pixels for every 1.7 seconds.